Conservative MP. Good to see you. Thanks for being with me.
Thanks for having me, Peter.
What did you hear in Stephen Harper's remarks tonight?
Well, what I heard was a guy that was very focused on making sure our party stayed united and talking about what we're about as Conservatives, which is making sure that those people who are Canadians that are out there working hard, making sure that they're taking care of their families, are the people that we're standing up for. And he did that throughout his entire term in office, and I know that our party is going to continue to work hard, stand up for those folks so that they can have a prosperous future. There's clearly no arguing his accomplishments as the leader of this party. The only leader of the party's known since it was merged, and the new Conservative Party. What does the next leader have to do differently? You know, I think that we did an outstanding job, and Prime Minister Harper did an outstanding job making sure that we had our fiscal house in order. Reducing the GST, making sure we dealt with debt and the deficit, making sure our economic house was in order. But we actually have to do even more now. We have to talk to Conservatives and we have to talk to Canadians about why we're fiscally responsible, why we want to make sure our economic house is in order. And for me, that's about, simply put, hard work so that we can help others. And the Canadian identity, I believe, is about that hard work and generosity, but also about freedom and tolerance. And I'm a Conservative because those are Conservative values embodied in the Canadian identity.
Let's talk about tolerance issues and frame that way. The party will have a conversation this weekend around the issue of same-sex marriage. The current party policy is marriage is one woman, one man. Where do you stand on that? There's a resolution to effectively delete that from party policy. Do you support that?
I support the deletion of it. You know, we're an open, free party that has fulsome discussions. And I think Canada is a place where freedom is embodied. You know, we fight for freedom abroad, but we also here at home want economic freedom, a reduction of taxation, a reduction of regulation, but also a freedom to have an open conversation. And with that freedom comes tolerance. We must tolerate each other's views as long as it's encapsulated in, as I say, in that Canadian identity, those core values that I talked about before.
It's interesting. Talk about that, those core values of Canadian identity. I think it's understood the party has suffered in the last election over the issue of identity politics, and you were the minister fronting the telephone line. People have referred to it as the snitch line. If people saw barbaric cultural practices and want to report them. You said you've regretted having to do that. I guess the question for a lot of people who are looking at your leadership run is then why did you do it?
Well, look, I was very clear. Our intention that day was to make sure that young women, in particular, but also young men, had someone at the end of the line if they were in trouble. And I've protected children my entire life. Now, the message for us that day got away from us, and I regret that, and I take responsibility for it. But I think every Canadian, of all walks of life, the people that come to this country actually truly believe that Canadian children need to be protected. And for me, that's extremely important. And when I talk about a Canadian identity, what I'm talking about is the values that bind us together, that unify us as Canadians. Generosity, hard work, equality of opportunity. That's what I'm talking about. Those are the things that unite Canadians, is what bring people to this country in the first place. And for me, as I say, they're extremely important, and that binds us together as Canadians.
So if the idea of the line, if the rollout wasn't properly explained and handled, do you still believe in the principle? If you had formed government, would you still be happy to say, look, we're going to have a phone line that for people to report?
No, and I've been very clear on this. I would not have a phone line. But that legislation about eradicating early forced marriages and supporting children, every Liberal member of Parliament as well as every Conservative member of Parliament voted for that piece of legislation. I think all Canadians agree we have to be and we should be protecting children. But would I do a phone line again? No, I would not.
Okay. What's your position on legalizing marijuana?
Well, I've been very clear on this. This is a dangerous drug, and I can tell you when I meet children in the emergency department or young adults that have had this in the emergency department, this is a dangerous drug. For me, we need to make sure that this drug is available to individuals from behind a pharmacy counter so we know what the potency is. If you have cancer, if you're a veteran, I think you should have access to it. But I don't think that a dangerous drug like this, just like I don't think marijuana or opioids should be available on the street for people to be able to purchase.
So there's a resolution coming here from Quebec riding that says it should become a ticketable offense, decriminalizing it effectively. So you do not support that?
I don't. And as I say, part of it, and it was talked about today by some folks, we don't know what the potency is of 5 grams of marijuana in your right hand versus 5 grams of marijuana in your left hand. We don't have an ability, we don't have an equivalent of a breathalyzer test. And until we have that, I think the safest thing to do for Canadians is have this drug that is important for cancer patients and veterans behind a pharmacy counter. So we know the potency, people who need it have access to it. But those that could be put at risk, like young adolescents on the street, they should not actually be able to buy it on the street. We right now in Canada, we spend millions of dollars telling young Canadians not to smoke cigarettes. In fact, Health Canada has a huge campaign. And now we have a government that is about to move forward to advocate that they should be able to smoke marijuana.
So if you became,
this makes no sense.
If you became the leader of the Conservative Party and you happen to win the next election and we already have legalized marijuana in Canada, you'd roll it back?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on where we're going to be. I think what will happen is that we'll see sometime in the next number of years that the Liberals will come forward with some package. Our party then, I think, will have quite a robust discussion about it, and I will be following the lead of our party with respect to that direction. I think it's important. That's part of the reason we're here this weekend, is to listen to the people who are the members of our party who have made sure that our party's been successful for the last number of decades, and I'll be listening to their direction as the leader of the party.
All right, Kellie Leitch, appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
I appreciate it.
Everybody, good luck in the leadership race, and we'll continue to follow closely at CPAC.
Thank you very much.